Once again I get to greet you. It's been quite a while. What a ride with
Wow, very optimistic crowd here. So I guess you all agree that we are at the beginning of our third epoch then, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so no debate here. All right, so let's start off by talking about the welcoming back. Let's welcome back Kathleen.
Thank you.
Let's welcome back Kathleen. Back to travel. We need people like her back in travel industry. Part of a new adventure. You're launching a new airline in Malaysia.
Yes.
What's it like entering the new world of airlines after like 4 years away and then you spent 20 years in a low-cost airline? How is it different now?
Well, there's a big change with the pandemic, but I'm still very excited. I believe in every crisis, it will bring change. There'll be opportunities for new players as well.
Excellent. Well, actually it's interesting that post-pandemic, there are actually more airlines being started right now, right? So according to this chart, it's like one of the many airlines that are starting up post-pandemic, and Asia is actually one of the most active regions. And I've kind of put together a list with Amadeus, with some help from Amadeus, and it is no means exhaustive, but this is a list of startup airlines that are beginning right now in Asia. So Jonathan, how do you think this will change aviation in APAC? And I've heard some predictions like we're going to see fewer, smaller, major airlines. We're going to see increased importance of low cost, and we're going to see a narrow body revolution.
Well, firstly, I think very clearly there's going to be a lot more capacity. There's going to be more competitive fares out there and ultimately benefiting travelers. Now, in terms of whether we'll see smaller, fewer, major brands, full-service carriers, I believe not necessarily. I think by and large, even pre-pandemic, we did not see major shifts in this segment, and they will continue to evolve and grow. And I think it's also fueled by the fact that Asia is still growing. I mean, if you look at the growing markets like Vietnam, like China, like India, depending on what kind of research you look at and how you measure the market size, it's anything between 5 and north of 10%. So it is still growing. You might hear that comment because right now, full-service carriers, because of North Asia, still not fully reopening, and that's why they're not operating at full capacity. But I think that will come back. But again, it's still growing. Low-cost carriers, yes, we see, I think from the previous panel, that their market share is definitely growing. A lot of these startups, they're putting in major orders, like Bamboo Airways in Vietnam as well. They're putting in a lot of orders. So they will continue to grow, and they will have a good shot. Now, what I'm looking out for when it comes to low-cost carriers is what further disruption they will bring. When they started years ago, they did two things in Asia Pacific. Number one, AirAsia, and I believe you were there then, they really accelerated the adoption of e-commerce because it was the first time passengers, you want low fares, you have to go on the internet. So that really started that revolution. They also started the unbundling of fares, which was great. Now, I'm interested to see what other creativity and innovation they're going to bring. Maybe subscription model, maybe the foray into the metaverse. So that's what I'll be looking out for.
All right, so Kathleen is going to respond to that later. What is the innovation that the new low-cost airlines are going to bring to this period of aviation?
Yeah.
You think about that first, okay? And I'm going to go to Hoon, okay? Because we want to now look at the future of urban air mobility, right? And Volocopter is actually preparing to launch services in Singapore and Paris in 2 years' time. So we will actually be seeing this over the skies over Marina Bay in 2 years' time. Let's play a video of the test flight that they did. Okay. You can watch the screen in front. So how many of you want to be the first to go on that flight in 2 years' time? Speak to Hoon. Test flight, okay. But tell us about the prep work that's gone into getting that test flight and then launching the service in 2024.
Yeah, so when we did this test flight in October of 2019, one of the things that we, two points I would make about that. One is, we actually did a pre-flight in Seletar, right? That's where we actually got all the regulatory approval necessary before we brought the aircraft down to the Marina Bay in order to fly it. The other point that I would make is, and actually you can see it in the video, when the aircraft is actually flying, the traffic did not stop. Actually, you saw that. The cars were just driving by, and you really hear the noise level. I mean, it's not inaudible. You can hear it, but it's not like a helicopter operating there where all traffic will be stopped and everybody's looking at the helicopter, right? So when we did also a pre-test flight in the Marina Bay the day before the event, people were just walking by. Obviously, it was unannounced. There was no camera crews on site, but people were just walking by, and they really did not notice the aircraft flying. And that really gave us the confidence that, yes, this can actually fit into the existing urban mobility market, which is the mission that we're on, right? We're here to bring urban air mobility to life. And when we say urban, we're really focused on within the city, traveling from, let's call it one major hub to another major hub within a particular mega city.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I live in Marina Bay area, and these days when I walk, I see drones flying, I see kites flying, so therefore if I see a Volocopter, it's going to be just part of the landscape, isn't it, So Kathleen, now I'm going to let you answer. What is the next wave of innovation you think low-cost airlines are going to bring, other than the accelerated adoption of e-commerce and unbundling of fares in the last world?
I think the first thing is we are looking at airplanes. And yesterday, I was attending a sustainability workshop. There's a lot of talk about sustainability. So MYAirline is not Malaysian airline, because some of you have been asking me. It's MYAirline, very simple. It's a low-cost airline in Malaysia. We want to do it a little bit different, because this morning there was a lot of talk about technology, service is missing. And we also know, like my previous airline, AirAsia, they were big, they grow very fast, but there's a lot of challenge today. It's all about using AVA, the web chat. So the service could not catch up with the volume. So this is, I think, the challenge that low costs that are scaling very fast, they find this problem. And to be honest, I want to help MYAirline to bring back love. Everyone was talking about love today, and there's something to create. The service credo is we want to have service with love, the old-fashioned service. You cannot truly depend on just technology for customer service, especially when you're flying. There's a lot of anxiety. It's about speed, it's about time. So you still need the human touch. And this is where we're going to add some difference for MYAirline. And when we first started for MYAirline, the first thing is because we are having new innovation of seats. So the new seats that we're refitting are very light. So per plane, it's about saving 800 over kilo of weight. That translates, when I calculated with the engineer, which means 1 year per plane, we are going to save about 155 tons of fuel per plane. So if you have a huge fleet, you're going to save a lot of energy, and today the world has a lot of energy crunch. So I think we are going to start with more focus on sustainability first.
Okay.
Because it's very easy for OTA, you're just building technology, whereas airline is difficult, it's two parts. Doing digitalization on transformation, but a very big part of the airline business is the big machine.
Yeah. So more efficiency of aircraft to be more sustainable, and blending man and machine to create a new kind of love. That's the innovation that you're going to bring.
And we are paperless now. We are the first AOC in Malaysia in the history of aviation that went through this audit without manual. If you see pilots always at the airport carrying these huge boxes, they are manual. So all our pilots are using iPad, no manuals.
Okay.
So,
all right. So Jonathan, I mean, interesting, we're talking about how tech has evolved now, and maybe we can actually now blend man and machine to create a new kind of love, right? A new kind of customer service. So you come from the tech side, you've been in the industry for a while. What 3 trends do you see shaping the new world of airlines?
For airlines, I think the biggest one is the retail transformation. I mean, we have been hearing about this pre-pandemic, and it has resurfaced again. And for a lot of airlines, it actually hasn't stopped. Now, what do we mean by retail transformation? It's essentially airlines looking at enhancing their offers and being able to dynamically offer it. So as opposed to the static flights, and then you possibly add on some ancillaries. I mean, to begin with, airlines are not really selling as many ancillaries as they would like, okay, because of a variety of reasons. But they want to do that. They want to put in then the context of personalization, all right, and then using AI, data, machine learning to do better and sell more. Now, McKinsey estimated that there is a $40 billion upside to this when airlines do this. That translates to about 4% of today's revenue, which is pretty good in considering the margins of airlines. But this is a very big change for them because it really changes the business strategy, and the tech stack has to change as well, essentially moving away from P&R and ticketing. And that has implications for the wider industry as well. So that's a very, very big transformation. And some airlines already started working with us to do innovation in this space. The second area I would say is doing more, being more data-driven. Again, talked about for a long time, but they're really getting into it. So we see airlines work, and we're working with them to actually look at data like ancillary sales, for example, when the customers buy, what price they buy it, why do they buy it, and then create different models, and then inject it back into their pricing and their marketing and merchandising strategies. So they're doing more of that as well. Okay. And then the third thing I would say is they are starting to pay attention again to metaverse, to NFTs, to blockchain. I think some of you may have read that, I think Travelex already sold NFT, they call it NF tickets, right? And it comes with a business class ticket to Boston for an art event where you can meet the artist. And it's sold for, I think, auctioned for $1 million. Okay, I don't think every airline ticket is going to go for that price. Okay, that would be quite difficult for us as travelers, but it's starting. So I believe there's a lot of creativity that can go into this space, and therefore airlines are monitoring that.
Okay, they're always the early movers, right? So Kathleen, let's talk about the change in specific to, like you were really driving digital marketing at AirAsia. What is the biggest change in the digital marketing landscape from now to before?
I'm only 2 months old after 4 years break. I think there's a lot of change in the digital world. It's getting a little bit complex, but when it comes to low-cost airline, what consumer want is still looking at fares first. And as Jonathan say, it's about bundling, because when I first started low cost, it's about getting the fares low, getting people to experience flying, learning how to book, to buy the fares. But 20 years later, a lot of the millennials are already familiar with low cost. Now is how to simplify it. So we are looking at bundling offers, make it easy for the business traveler, make it easy for the family travels. So I think segmentation is so important. Marketing is still important, even in the technology world. We talk a lot about technology, but we forgot that there is market segmentation of the silver economy, the retirees. They are the ones who really have the money. So Tuesdays are where you see a lot of low fare. This is where revenue should be looking at how to reach out to this group of people. Okay. And
so from unbundling to bundling of offers, but really very precise segmentation.
Yes.
So Hoon, I mean, I was reading the 2021 Asian Air Mobility Report, right? And they said that APAC is a really good market for these eVTOLs because we have the most number of millionaires here in Asia. And apparently Singapore has the highest third population of millionaires right now, and I'm not one of them. But also, our cities are extremely jammed. I mean, traffic jam and all that. So perfect for UAM, right? So one day we will be able to order a eVTOL on Grab or Gojek or Kakao or Line in Japan. That's the vision, right?
I think we certainly intend to partner with the mobility partners that you mentioned. The UN says, by 2050, 68% of the world's population will live in cities, right? And we see this happening across this region where in Japan, for example, right? The cities, Tokyo, Osaka, are actually getting bigger, while the rural areas are getting, less populated. And this is a trend that's happening, I think, in throughout this region. When you think about the infrastructure that's needed to support that population growth, we're here to add an option, right, for the city planners, for the city governments, so that that instead of having to move entire communities to build an additional lane on the highway, right, or build a new subway, they can consider having us as an option. We build these, let's call them highways in the sky. We need dedicated infrastructure at the endpoints, right? But that can help really to alleviate the pressure that this additional population will place
So
on the
commuter
cities.
flights basically from, so you're seeing Singapore to Johor, for example, or to Singapore, Johor, and
For us, I think we want to, to borrow a term before, we want to add value, right?
Okay.
And the primary value that we add is time savings,
Okay.
right? So when we look at launching in Singapore, domestically speaking, the traffic is pretty good. And maybe the F1 weekend is not a good example, but besides that, right? So where we look at where is there consistent traffic jam in and around Singapore, we see it on the causeway and the bridge, right? And that's where we think we can add the most value in terms of time savings.
So I was reading a report from Revolution Aero, and they monitor the eVTOL sector. They said that the industry has secured over 4,600 orders so far. So the orders are coming in for this aircraft. Okay. Right, so we talked about sustainability. We cannot ignore that, and clearly you've talked about how you're thinking about it, because I was listening to a conference in at CAPA, and they had the policy director of the Aviation Environment Federation basically saying the only solution is to fly less and to reduce long-haul flights. Like, for them it's like black and white, right? So given your aircraft is running on battery life, are you going to be considered much more environmentally friendly than others?
We are zero emission while flying, right? Of course, the ultimate, when you calculate the carbon numbers, it depends on where the source of the electricity is, right? Whether it's coming from renewable energy sources or traditional fossil fuels. And that calculation currently is still a simulation. We're not operating, right, currently. But yes, we do believe that by, again, adding this option, right, for the consumer, especially during peak hours, this can significantly alleviate the ground traffic, right? And there's carbon savings by not having as many people jammed, right, on the road with our aircraft flying in the sky.
Okay. So Kathleen, MYAirline, domestic first? So short-haul
Yes.
domestic flights first?
Just the first few aircraft.
Okay.
Because a lot of pilots have not been flying. They're just learning on the simulator. So we really need to get them up in the air. Not just MYAirline. Actually, a lot of airlines now there's still a lot of aircraft on the ground, especially the big airlines, because you need to service the plane to make sure everything is in order before you can get them up the air. So...
But eventually, regional?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's already on the radar next year. So we just got our AOC just a few days ago. So we just have the last process, which the ASL, that once you get that, we're able to open for sale. So we're looking at maybe early November, we can get our planes up in the air. Keep my fingers crossed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Early November open for sale, so watch out for that. And what are you selling your first flight in Singapore for?
Again, we expect to begin operations in 2024. I think we will start pre-selling tickets before that.
Yes.
At this point, I cannot commit on when a date for that.
All right. You mean a price? I was asking you about price,
And
not
also
date.
on the pricing.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about airports. And I think in the first panel, I think the two Timothys talk about how airports are really quite broken in the value chain, right? The disruption, the friction. So. Kathleen, I'm going to come to you, right? Because, the Dutch government is asking Schiphol Airport right now to cut flights by 20%, and they're going to introduce airport surcharges right now. So, airports are crucial to our livelihood. So, what innovation are we seeing in airports? Let's go with Kathleen first.
I think if you take Singapore Changi Airport as a very good example, they are really leading the space in technology. They are using facial recognition, biometrics. They are also looking at sustainability, recycling water with the airport, and also robot doing the cleaning. So I believe we are already seeing some other Southeast Asian airport also following the lead as well, especially now with COVID. Airports should be investing in technology where you can do a lot of scanning so you don't now when you travel, you have to unbuckle your belt and lots of stuff, but Changi Airport has technology that you don't really have to do that. One of the things that I think in the future, somebody was talking about electric plane. From the airline perspective, we were talking about electric vehicle where it tow the planes, and vehicles that are where you load all the baggages. If you can have electric vehicles, there will be a lot of speed, flights will not be delayed, and also cost to the airline will come down. So I hope airports will look at all this. These are actually very crucial.
Robotics, okay.
Yes.
Jonathan, what innovation are we seeing in airports? I know Amadeus is doing a lot of work around airports.
Yep, the two big areas, I think one Kathleen already mentioned, biometrics is very real, and we see a lot of airports suddenly, as they go into recovery, coming to us and say, we need to implement biometrics. So that's for one, and I will not belabor the point. The second one I would say is, again, like airlines, being more data-driven, AI, machine learning. And I'm finally seeing that happen. So I'll give you some examples. Okay, one is looking, we have this tool called the Sequence Manager. Basically allows an airport to look at all the flights coming in, all the aircraft movements on the ground, and optimize that data so that you can allocate the aircrafts, to the right places, to the right gates, so that they don't end up waiting on the tarmac, burning fuel.
Yes.
Passengers have to wait longer, so that's one. Another area is, again, looking at passenger traffic within the airport. So you can then be able to pick up to say if there's a security issue, or for example, if there's too much overcrowding in one side, let's allocate the traffic and then allocate your resources to go service the flights there. Now, the more interesting discussions we're getting into the use cases is one of my favorite topics, and that's airports and airlines working together. So one example is this airport told me recently, I have park and fly. Right? So if I can get the data from the airline about the passengers flying, then I can push offers about my park and fly. So they need to collaborate more. Other areas is like baggage, which is another very, very topic close to our hearts, right? Because if we lose our baggage, it's really a bad experience. But airports will know about this. Is there a way, again, to collaborate for data to push to airlines so that the passenger, when he's on flight or she's on flight, she can even see from the IFE that, hey, get a message that my baggage did not make it. And there are options if the airport chooses to partner with other third-party suppliers to get the baggage delivered. So I think the creativity needs to flow, but it starts with airline and airport coming together to collaborate.
All right, and for you, you're actually building Volopods, right? So you're going to have your own airport in a way, the Volopods, landing pads.
We do plan to build the first Voloport here in Singapore, in the Marina South area. But that's not our long-term strategy. And the long-term strategy is to partner with others to then further develop vertiports in the region. Okay. We envision about 6 to 8 in the Singapore area, right? And I think we're making plans for others in APAC.
All right, so we have 2 minutes to look into the future of aviation. I asked you to imagine aviation in 2050, and what would it look like? And Kathleen's team sent in this image. Let's play that image. Wow, what is that? So can you talk us through very briefly on that?
Sean, you want to talk?
Okay.
Robotic
all right.
crew.
Yeah.
Somebody earlier talked about humans, right? Would you like to fly a plane where you have robots to serve you?
Robotic cabin crew.
Yeah, robotic cabin crew.
Okay. Cool.
That's going to be hard, right?
No, I think it'll be pretty cool as long as they can give love as well. That's fine. Okay. All right. I think, Hoon, you didn't give us an image, so maybe you just give me 3 words. Give me 3 words to imagine the picture.
I think the 3 words is urban air mobility. Right? I mean,
true,
today when you fly, you have to go to an airport, which is usually on the fringe of a city. In the future, you're going to be flying within your city.
All right. Okay, and Jonathan, you sent us this video. So watch this video. It's pretty cool. Wow, I want to be on that supersonic shuttle to self-drive? I mean, self-fly to Moon or Mars. That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining me in talking about the new world of aviation. Please thank Kathleen, Jonathan, and Hoon. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Selling flights has always been complex.